Good morning, everyone. I had a chance to use the Bowline on a Bite with a Blake's basic climbing system the other day, so I figured I'd shoot some video, put it out for anybody who hasn't tried it. The Bowline on a Bite is a wonderful knot, especially if you're using a rope puller or a come along to pull trees over, because you can load it up really heavy and it doesn't get too tight to untie, obviously. But in a climbing configuration, it works quite well as a makeshift saddle. We're all tested on it on our ISA test, but we don't always use it in the field. So obviously you make it here extra long and you leave it with a long tail, so you have something to tie your system with. So you can make a simple climbing system with no carabiner. All you need is one rope. I find it nicer with a larger diameter rope. 13 mil or 12 mil, 11.7, 11.5. Once you get down to 10, it starts getting a little bit small, but still works. So this is an old Yale rigging rope that I've been using for quite some time. But if you have not learned your Blakes, or you've never bothered learning your Blakes, it's worth having in your arsenal, because sometimes you're up in a tree and you need to get out to one limb, and it would be a lot easier if you just had a second climbing rope. And this works really well. You can use the rigging rope, get out there, make the cut, and then come back without making a dangerous swing backwards. So learn your Blakes. It's really, really worth it. I'm sure there's far more videos out there of someone tying a Blakes up close. A little easier to see than this video here, but the biggest part of tying the Blakes correctly is keeping it relatively close to you and dressing it properly so that it functions. And of course, if you put a pulley under it, it's better. But you can see here, I lean out, put some weight on it, and test it. Make certain that it's working. Yep. Look, Mom, no hands. And then I decided I actually needed to put the rope in a different area. So you can see I pull myself back up. It's a little bit backwards to a hitch climber, because you're holding with the hand that's underneath the knot and then sliding the knot up, kind of like a tricep extension. So it's a little bit counterintuitive, but once you get used to it, it's really not too bad to hip thrust up with if you need to. But anyway, I had the rope tied where I needed to in this tree. This tree was relatively balanced, but it was such a large top and it had so many codominants in it that I couldn't really tell where the weight was. And the sapwood was partially rotten, but it still had a little bit of life in it, so it's hard to read, which limbs have weight and which ones don't. And so obviously with an insurance policy, I decided to drop it in the field. I wanted it to fall downhill, not because there's any structures to protect, but because this is going to be milled and used as slabs for tables. And milling in the middle of a bunch of bushes is a bad idea. Plus, some of the bushes back there are indigenous fynbos, and they don't want us cutting those down. So I'm felling a big oak tree today. Good morning, everybody. Sorry I forgot to say good morning. My family's constantly shitting on me for that, because I'm always just talking and not saying good morning. My apologies. Anywho, dropping a big oak today. It's an old English oak. As they do in this part of the world, they tend to rot because there's just too much water in the air. It's too warm, and they never go through a frost cycle in the winter. So if you're ever having somebody who has an English oak in a humid environment and they wonder why it never seems to come back and dies from the tips back, it's because of fungus and rot. Anyway, taking this down, try and make some furniture out of it. The center's actually decent. You can see the inner wood actually looks really nice all the way through. So there was a fire that came through this area back in 2017 and burned one side of it, but it seems to have compartmentalized it all right. You can see the compartmentalization wound there, but there's this fig or something that's grown inside of it. That doesn't look normal. Anyway, we're gonna take it down today, but I was just illustrating kind of an overcut. I cut like 60% instead of cutting 30%. I cut like 60, mainly because there's so much going on up there. I can't tell which way this thing's actually gonna lay, or wants to lay, I should say. So
you know, there's more green on this side, but there's this weird kind of back kick to the stem, and so I just said screw it. I overcut it. I climbed it and set a rope in it. I overcut it. I'm going to back cut it, of course, with wedges, and have a little rope to pull if I need insurance. But sometimes if you do your first face cut and it looks okay, it's okay to go 50-60% to get it to fall into the cavity that you made, if the wood's strong. If it's rotten, then obviously you don't want to do that. But I just wanted to show you guys that today. If you're ever dealing with one that's strong but's got a weird lean or a weird shape to it and you're not sure which way it wants to go, you can definitely cut more than 50% and get it to fall into the cavity. Anyway, hope everybody has a great day.